If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you not from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city, but from Red Stick Sports on Essen, their 44th annual sidewalk sale. We are fired up to be here for it. And fired up for the next couple of hours. Brought to you by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. We got tons and tons to do before 3 o'clock when we get out of here for good. Preston Guy talking LSU football in 15 minutes. Got to talk a little bit of Saints in hour number 2. We got a Final Four to get ready for as well. LSU basketball in the transfer portal. We're going to speak about that. I told you that there was something LSU needed. I think they may have helped get it yesterday. So lots and lots to do over the next 2 hours. So lock us in right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. We start this same way every single day with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's opening drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
Holy cow, was last night any good by Cade Anderson. Unbelievable performance by the LSU ace. Tigers go up to Norman, Oklahoma. It's Anderson against Witherspoon, and Cade Anderson twirls the game of his college career to this point. A complete game shutout of a top 10 team on the road against what's likely a top 15 pick. And if we're being candid about it, Cade Anderson worked his way toward being a top 15 pick last night with the work that he put in. I don't think there is anything, when you look at the stat line, when you watch the game, when you pour over every single ounce of what went on in that ballpark last night, there is nothing to me more impressive than this. In the first inning, Oklahoma had a pair of singles and a walk with one out. The bases loaded. Cade Anderson goes strikeout, strikeout. In the third inning, Anderson issues a walk and then a single into right field. 2 men on, 2 out. Strikeout. In the sixth inning, leadoff double. Strikeout, strikeout, strikeout. Oklahoma put runners in scoring position 3 different times. They had 6 at-bats with runners in scoring position in the game. They went 0 for 6 with 6 strikeouts. That is an ace who's got complete command of his entire arsenal of pitches and takes control of the ball game and never lets up. Yes, it was a great night to pitch in Norman last night. It was cold. The wind was howling in. I got you. That doesn't mean that it's easy to strike out 14 guys. That doesn't mean that when the situation becomes the most stressful, that it's easy to just revert back to exactly what you do and get 6 punch-outs. LSU did not have a proven ace coming into this season. And Cade Anderson has cemented his spot atop the rotation, and quite frankly, over the course of 4 weeks of SEC play, has cemented himself among the top pitchers in college baseball. That doesn't mean Cade Anderson is going to throw 3 more complete game shutouts and strike out 14 every weekend. He's not Paul Skeens. But Cade Anderson's going to give LSU a chance against some real dudes. And he did last night. Because let me tell you, Kyson Witherspoon is legit. That fastball is 96, 97. That slider is sharp. He didn't falter with his command at all in the game last night. I mean, you look at Witherspoon's line, 6 innings, 6 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. He was rock solid. And if you watch the game, his stuff was great. But he struck out Curiel to open the game. He struck out Jones in the next plate appearance. And then he went on to face 23 more hitters for LSU, and he only struck out 2 of them. That's a lineup that was fighting and scrapping and clawing every bit they could on, like I just said, was a really tough day to hit, great day to pitch against one of the best pitchers in the nation. You put him in a bucket with Jamie Arnold at Florida State, with Liam Doyle at Tennessee, now with Cade Anderson at LSU, got Tyler Bremner at UC Santa Barbara. Like, yeah, I mean, there are a few, but Kyson Witherspoon is in that discussion. And LSU battled him. And when they got an opportunity to do something, they did it. In the 3rd inning, they pushed their first run across. Just an incredible swing by Derek Curiel on a ball up and out of the plate to drive it the other way for a double. Then Jared Jones works a 3-2 count. He gets, I don't know if you want to call that a slider or a cutter, whatever. It's hard, and it's breaking away from him. And with 2 strikes, he goes the other way and drives the ball into right field. Y'all remember Jared Jones 2 years ago, swinging over the top of breaking balls, chasing pitches with 2 strikes? Not this dude. Best pitcher maybe in the country. Throws him a really quality 3-2 pitch. RBI single the other way. Huge hit by Jones there. Then in the 5th, you get another opportunity. Luis Hernandez pumps a double into the right center field gap. Great swing. Tanner Reeves gets the bunt down. And then Chris Stanfield shoots the ball the other way really hard down the first base line in there for an RBI double. And what was the count when when Stanfield did that? 0-2. He falls behind 0-2, fouls a pitch off, then gets one on the inner half, muscles it the other way. I thought it was a brilliant swing. So you had really 2 opportunities to that point to score, and you did it both times. Now in the 7th, Hernandez doubles to chase Witherspoon, again on a 2-strike pitch. Drives it into the left field corner. Braswell pinch hits. He gets the bunt down. And then Chris Stanfield missed a sign. Can't happen. Can't miss signs. It's a 3rd-year college player. I don't care if you're a 1st-year college player. You can't miss signs. And how do I know he missed a sign? Because Luis Hernandez, after he got thrown out on what was supposed to be a suicide squeeze, Jay Johnson's welcomed him back to the dugout, says, good job. If Hernandez missed a sign, I don't think Jay Johnson's telling him good job. It was obvious that Stanfield had missed that sign. But it didn't matter because Anderson was that good. And that's a huge, huge thing for this LSU team because we know some things about this team right now. We know them. We know that LSU offensively is putting up numbers as good as anybody in college baseball when you talk about the balance of the lineup. Top to bottom, not striking out, doubles, slugging, home runs. They can sacrifice bunt when they need to. They've got a little bit of speed and athleticism. Like, they're a complete offense. Are they the home run machine that Tennessee was 3 years ago or was last year? No, they're not the gorilla ball team of 1997, 1998. But in terms of being a complete offense, from the competition that LSU has seen to this point, they're as good as anybody offensively 1-9. We know their defense is excellent. Milam's been great. Dickinson's been excellent at second base. You haven't really had the issues at third base that you thought you may have after 3 weeks. Catching has cleaned up significantly since the first 2 weeks. You've got an elite center fielder in Stanfield. I like the way that Curiel plays defense in left field. He's made some great plays. Jake Brown has his issues here and there, but overall, your defense is good. And now you're seeing LSU flex its muscles from a starting pitching perspective in a couple of different games. Here's what I'm talking about. You face a really nice ace over in Austin, Texas. And Cade Anderson outduels him, beats him. LSU controlled that game start to finish, no doubt. Last weekend, Pico Khan comes in, another left-handed ace, potential first-round pick, big strikeout guy. Einstein outdueled him. Einstein, and then you turned the ball over to Kason Evans, and they were better than Pico Khan. And you won a 2-1 game. And then last night, you face one of the best aces in the country, and Cade Anderson outduels him. Oh, by the way, go back to Game 3 of the Mississippi State Series last week. You scored 9 runs in the first inning and just bludgeoned them. You're able to win games a multitude of different ways if you're LSU right now. That is the sign of a championship caliber team. I didn't say LSU's a lock for Omaha. I didn't say they're the national championship favorite. These are the signs of a championship-level team. Last year, at this point in the calendar, LSU had exactly one way to win a baseball game. You needed Luke Holman to go 6 or 7. You needed Griffin Herring to go 2 or 3. And you needed to score 5 or 6 runs. That's the only way LSU could win. They couldn't win on Saturdays. They were getting crushed and run-ruled on Sundays. They weren't winning 1-0 games. They weren't slugging, and they weren't complete enough on offense to win 15-13. They needed Holman and Herring. That was it. That's all they could do through half of SEC play. Then eventually Gage Jump figured it out, and eventually you got Ashton Larson into the lineup, and he started producing a little bit. You got Stephen Milam into the lineup, he started producing a little bit. You got some better outings from Christian Little and Nate Ackenhouse and a couple of guys, but you had one roadmap to success at this point last year. I'm looking at this LSU team. They can beat you just about any way you want to get beat. Need an ace to go out there and dominate? Awesome. Anderson's done it 2 times in 3 league series, and you saw Ianson do it last week. Need the bullpen to come in and slam the door for 3 innings, 4 innings? Boom, they got it done. Need the guys to come out and bash the baseball around? Absolutely. And even to the point where they've beaten 2 different aces 2 different weeks in different ways. They hit 2 home runs off Pico Khan last week. You couldn't hit a home run there last night. So what'd they do? Lead off double, sack bunt, get a squeeze. Well, they didn't get the squeeze bunt down. Shoot the double down the right field line. Get a clutch 2-strike hit with Jared Jones. That's completely different than bashing it off the scoreboard against Con. I love the fact that LSU is showing different ways to win baseball games. And last night, complete tip of the cap to Cade Anderson. My favorite thing about Anderson's outing last night was how many times he was able to win with his fastball. That's the sign of a great pitcher. Because what you always hear in kind of cliche analysis of the game, like you got to hunt the fastball. Got to hit the fastball. Got to hit mistakes. Got to get in advantage counts so you can get a fastball and drive it. And last night, Cade Anderson was throwing a lot of fastballs. Now, he commanded the breaking ball, and the changeup was great. No argument about that at all. But he was beating them with his fastball, both up in the zone and on the outside corner consistently, and that just means you've got him in a chokehold. And to me, Cade Anderson had him in a chokehold last night, and he never let up. It's important for me to lead with that, because we'll talk about pitch count later. Those that follow me on Twitter, read my story, know my feelings on it. We'll get into it a little bit later. But the key in the story from last night, your ace stepped up. You beat another ace, the 3rd time you've done that in 3 weeks. And right now, LSU is just a really, really good baseball team that's really hard to beat. Like, how do you beat these guys? It's tough. And Oklahoma did not have the secret sauce last night. One of the best pitchers in college baseball on the mound. That's our Genesis opening drive. We're here at Red Stick Sports, here for the 44th annual sidewalk sale. A big tent out there out front, and we're excited to be here. I'll tell you a little bit more about that as we go to break. We'll come back with Preston Guy talking some LSU football next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Mentioned it. We're here at Red Stick Sports for their annual sidewalk sale. Listen to some of these deals. I've walked around the store. They're incredible. All Adidas and Under Armour workout apparel, 50% off. Under Armour basketball shoes, $39.95. Looking for an Adidas fleece? I know that it's the offseason. Summer's coming. Doesn't mean you can't buy one to throw in the closet. They're 75% off. LSU fans out there, if you've got one in your life, 25% off all the apparel. I'm looking at T-shirts. I'm looking at fishing shirts. I'm looking at pullovers. I'm looking at jerseys, all that stuff, 25% off. And there's a huge tent out front that's got all kinds of great deals here at Red Stick Sports. We're on Essen. Come on by and see us. The sidewalk sale goes through tomorrow. You can get here today until 5 o'clock or tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. You don't want to miss it. Youth athletes, LSU fans, just you want to get some activewear, it is all here at Red Stick Sports. It's their 44th annual sidewalk sale. Right here. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
We're here at Red Stick Sports, 44th annual sidewalk sale. Fired up to be here on this Friday in the capital city. We're going to talk some LSU football. It is that time of the week. Preston Guy, TigerBait.com jumps aboard. Preston, how are you?
All right, what's going on, man? Thank you for talking to me on your day of, hopping out under the tent and buying $15 cleats or whatever.
There's incredible deals here to be had. So hopefully a lot of folks will cash in on that over the next 24 hours or so. I want to talk some quarterback play with you here, Preston, and we've got to start obviously with Garrett Nussmeier. How would you categorize his play as a whole last season?
Oh, that's a good question. Overall, good, but I feel like that's not quite captures it. It was too volatile at times, right? He made some outstanding plays last year, showed you flashes of greatness, but there were also other times where he was too uncareful with the ball, particularly down the stretch of the season. I think in his first 6 games, I believe he only had 2 interceptions. So to finish the back half of the season with 10, that's highly concerning, particularly 3 against Texas A&M. There were also times last year where he was not good on the deep ball. In fact, I'll say times it wasn't until the very end of the year that he really started to hit that deep ball. And there were open receivers, granted, not the best deep threats in the world. That should be greatly improved this year. But you need to show some accuracy and consistency with that deep ball. So, I mean, overall, it was a pretty good season last year, but I'm not going to go out and say it was great or anything, but I think he's got the potential to be great.
How do you feel about his possibility of reaching that potential?
Well, he should have most of the tools in place. The one concern I would have is offensive line, because he's not going to be a guy who is buying you a ton of time with his legs and getting crafty with how he works the pocket. I mean, he's got mobility, but it's just average mobility. He's no Joe Burrow. He's certainly no Jaden Daniels. So that would be my one concern. But in terms of his receiving core and running back room, I think he's in pretty good shape. And with the offensive line, in terms of how many guys can be good, I mean, I think you've got to pull 2 deep who you could convince me if he ends up the starter, like, okay, he's got a chance to be a pretty good SEC starter. So I do like the pieces he has in place here. And we all know about how that 5th-year bump at LSU has gone in recent years.
That's my next question. I mean, if you look at Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels, you see one story. If you look at the odds to win the Heisman Trophy, Garrett Nussmeier's always in the top 3. I mean, how surprised would you be if he was in New York?
New York wouldn't catch me off guard. Now, him actually winning the whole thing, I'd still be a little, I mean, imagine catching lightning in a bottle like that 3 times. I mean, most programs, you get a 5th-year bump like we saw out of Mettenberger in 2013, and they're ecstatic. I mean, when Mettenberger took that jump, LSU fans thought that was the rocket age. That was the greatest thing that could ever happen. And then Joe Burrow comes around, and then 4 years later, basically the same thing, the same level of offense comes again to LSU after a year of not so great on offense. So I think you got to manage your expectations. I think it's certainly plausible he'll be in New York, and he's certainly going to get some pretty good Heisman odds coming into the season. Don't be surprised if he's in the top 5 Heisman odds. I've even seen him as high as number 2. But, I think to put that expectation on him, that's such a high bar to hit. So you mean to tell me if he doesn't make it to New York, it's a disappointing season? Like, I don't really see that being reasonable.
I agree completely. I think that if you're trying to make him exactly into Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels, that's a lot to ask, especially when you consider what those guys are doing now on Sundays. What's more important to LSU's offense, the development of the running game or Garrett Nussmeier taking another step or 2 forward?
Running game for sure. For sure. Here's the deal. Nussmeier played well enough last year. I think that it's possible you could have won a national championship with the way he played last year. Now, granted, that's in this new era where you can lose 2 games and make the college football playoff 2 and then go get hot, because there were games he didn't play well enough to win that game. Certainly against Texas A&M, he didn't play well enough to win that football game. So that, but if his running game were more consistent last year, that offense would have taken off and been a lot more consistent, because he threw for 4,000 yards. I mean, he was certainly moving the ball with his right arm, but I think that the surrounding cast around him, he had no running game at times. And at times his receivers were either hurt or, not being very effective, and that held him back quite a bit. So I think if you were able to develop a running game and you could get exactly what you got out of Nussmeier last year, I think you've got a pretty good offense right there. And certainly one that's good enough to win a championship with the right defense.
Here's an April question for you if we're just going to live in hypothetical land. If I let you make a one-for-one trade at quarterback and you could trade Garrett Nussmeier for anybody in the SEC, would you do it? I think your options are probably DJ Lagway, Arch Manning, Lenoris Sellers, Nico. I mean, would you make a trade if I let you do it?
Probably not. I mean, certainly once you account for the whole getting chemistry with the team and stuff like that, I don't think that there's a guy I would take over Nussmeier. And even if you ask me nationwide, I'm not sure I could come up with a guy that I'm for sure would be better than Nussmeier. Particularly, I've talked to people in the space of trying to, people who were responsible for helping Nussmeier come back to school this year. And there were people concerned he might go pro this year. And basically what I'm hearing from early draft projections is there's some NFL scouts who feel he's as high as the number 2 quarterback in this year's draft. And that's pretty impressive, especially when you start looking at these Heisman odds and, who these projected draft boards. A lot of these guys have Arch Manning ahead of him. And look, I have nothing against Arch Manning, but we've seen him start 2 football games. One, he looked very average, middle of the road in. The other, he looked good. And I think he's a good quarterback. I just don't know if I don't know if I'm ready to declare him Peyton Manning quite yet. Especially having seen him in high school, and the stuff he had didn't look, that overwhelmingly great to me from seeing him on the sideline. I mean, solid player, top 12 quarterback in the class, but I just didn't see number 1, top recruit of all time.
We'll see. A lot of stuff on his shoulders there in Austin this coming football season. Lastly, here on the quarterback front, Michael Van Buren. How would you feel if he needed to start 2 games for LSU? I realize it depends on which ones they are, but just in theory.
Yeah, I mean, on paper coming in, great, because we're talking about a guy with starting SEC experience. I'm a little concerned about the reps I've seen from the quarterbacks this spring, and that's not limited to Van Buren, but also Nussmeier at times has struggled during spring. So I kind of want to chop it up to, okay, well, maybe that was a windy day, or maybe they're learning here or there, and also chop it up to we haven't gotten the best look at the team. They've really kind of limited us to very few ones-on-one, full speed drills. It's been more like, one-on-one drills with the receivers and corners going out there, or 7-on-7 type stuff. So overall, I'd love to answer this question, not next Friday, but the Friday after that, after we get a good open practice. Let's see if they give us some good reps to see in that open practice. It might be less than we even get in the spring game. It could be more, but overall, I would feel 10 times more comfortable if I saw more live action reps, 11-on-11, ones-on-one with Michael Van Buren in there, and show me what he can do.
We'll certainly preview that next week when we talk at this time. I know y'all got a lot going on at TigerBait.com right now as spring comes to a close. Let them know where they can find it all.
Oh, yeah. Look, guys, just check it out, TigerBait.com. That'll have a link to our YouTube page. We got, our baseball show is still rocking and rolling. We got Kendall Rogers and Mike Scarborough doing their thing once a week. That's good content. Baseball team continues to look pretty good this year. Cade Anderson, boy, can't say enough about him last night, right? So y'all come check us out, TigerBait.com. Well, anything we do anywhere else, like YouTube or whatever, we're going to post that on our TigerBait feed. So that's always a good place to just kind of get your Rolodex of where to find us.
We appreciate the help every Friday. Have a great weekend. We'll talk next week for the spring practice.
See you soon, Hunt.
Preston Guy, TigerBait.com. I think the point, and this is something that I'll probably harp on a good bit in July and certainly in August, like, I have some questions with LSU's roster entering this 2025 season. There are some things that I kind of look at and go, quarterback's not one. And that's a really good place to start. There is so much turnover, so much upheaval, so much change in college football rosters year over year at this point. And that's the coach's job to kind of mesh that all together. And when you can start with, by pretty much every account's top 5 quarterback in the country, I don't think that's a stretch to call Garrett Nussmeier a top 5 returning quarterback in the country. When you can start there, it's a pretty good place to start, right? And that's going to be kind of the thing that I feel good about as we start to climb towards this football season in the fall. Yeah, I wish I knew more about the DBs. I wish I knew more about the defensive tackles. I wish I knew more about what the offensive line was going to look like. I wish I knew more about how they're going to run the ball. But there's a comfort in looking at the quarterback spot and going, we're pretty good there. And that's where LSU sits right this very second. So that's kind of where I am. That's our look at LSU football here for this day. We got a lot to do coming up over the next hour and a half. Still got to talk about LSU and Oklahoma, game 2 of that series coming up at 6:30 tonight, weather permitting. We'll talk to Koki Riley 30 minutes from right now. He's in Norman. Wrote a great story after the game last night about Cade Anderson's outing, Nate Yeske and his day yesterday, unfortunately, tragically losing his dad. And then you've got to go to work and call a game. And Cade Anderson paid that off in a big way. So we'll talk to Koki coming up in 30 minutes. When we come back, we'll take a look at the Final Four cranking up tomorrow from San Antonio. That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is the website. Every car that is on the lot is online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. Your buying experience at Genesis of Baton Rouge is going to be first class in every way. First, you walk on to the lot, you walk into the showroom, and you get the vibe. It's just incredible. It's a first-class facility. It's brand new. It's clean. The ambiance is great. The staff is so friendly and helpful. You'll feel like you're walking into a 5-star hotel when you walk into the showroom. They got this incredible coffee maker, the snacks laid out, and their staff will make you feel like a guest, not a customer. You're not going to be aggressively upsold. You're not going to have 3 salesmen swarming you when you walk in. It's going to be relaxed. It's going to be comfortable. It's going to be helpful. And then you'll get behind the wheel, and you'll see why Genesis is a luxury brand of vehicles. Phenomenal, all the way from the sedan through the SUV, from the entry level all the way to the highest end. When I say luxury, don't automatically go, I can't afford that. You might be surprised. It's a luxury vehicle at a reasonable price. Get on by and see them. Airline at Pico. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. You can find them online. GenesisofBatonRouge.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
Friday editions of the Hunt Palmer Show, always brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. It's a Lenten Friday. You're looking for some seafood. No better place to stop than Corks. They got your shrimp po' boy, catfish po' boy. They also got your platters, those crispy shoestring fries as well. And if you're looking for something a little bit different, how about their famous baked potato? It is fully topped with that crawfish etouffee. They put those jumbo Gulf shrimp on the top. It is real good over there at Corks. You're looking to tailgate at the box at some point in the coming weeks. You're trying to feed a family for a family reunion. You got folks coming over for the Easter holiday in a couple of weeks. You're trying to feed in bulk is what I'm trying to tell you. Get on by Corks. They can absolutely do it. They love to handle your catering orders. They're on Government between Foster and Jefferson, and the menu is online at corksfishandshrimp.com. Man, all feels right in the world right now. I'm looking at the Cubbies at Wrigley Friday at 1:20. I think temps are in the high 40s right now in Chicago, so it doesn't feel like spring there. But it's spring here, and I got the Cubbies on, and I'm a happy dude. Part of the spring is the Final Four, and we'll see that tomorrow as 2 SEC teams will get going in the early game. It's Florida and Auburn, and then, of course, Houston and Duke. I got to tell you, some folks will tell you that it's boring to have all the 1 seeds in, that there hadn't been the upsets, that you'd rather have a lot more theatrics. I could not be more excited for these 2 games coming up tomorrow. I just think they're going to be absolute heavyweight battles, and I'll give you my picks, and I'll give you reason why I have my picks. I can absolutely see the games going the other way. I think that all 4 of these teams are absolutely national championship good. And you may say, well, they're 1 seeds. Obviously, they're national championship good. Sometimes there's one team that's way better. And if there is one, it's probably Duke. But Duke's young, and they're going to face some old teams if they play 2 games in this Final Four. So I could not be more excited to watch it. We'll start breaking down Florida and Auburn. Florida's a 2.5-point choice in this game. What we know about Florida is they're not going to flinch if and when they get down 8 points. We've seen that now multiple times in this tournament. They turn to Walter Clayton. He's been a magician, and they're just not going to be put away easily. The thing I like about Florida in this matchup is that they can come at Janai Broome in waves. Most teams don't have multiple people that can physically guard Janai Broome. They do. They've got Alex Condon at 6'11". They've got Thomas Hall at 6'9". They've got Ruben Chinyelu at 6'10". They've got Micah Handleton at 7'1". They can all take their turn on Janai Broome, who's awesome. And he's a handful for most teams in the front court. Florida can throw different guys at him. If somebody gets in foul trouble, yeah, that's not ideal, but you've got somebody else that can go out there and play against him. Florida has had the best offense in college basketball in the last month. They're shooting 58% on twos. They're shooting almost 40% on threes. It's incredibly efficient what they do. And then one of the X factors I just mentioned that you got to love with Florida, they've got Walter Clayton. And he just isn't going to budge. He isn't going to flinch. He wants to take the last shot. And in a Final Four that looks like it could come down to a possession or two here or there in every game that they play, having that guy on your team is a big deal. Now, this Auburn team, I don't want to disparage them. Like, you're talking about an Auburn team that lost one time between December 4th and March 4th. Once. Did you see that league? Did you see how good the SEC was? They lost one time over that stretch. Right now, they're not shooting it the way they need to. They're shooting 31% on threes in the NCAA tournament, which is not atrocious. It hasn't gotten them beat, but you need to shoot it a little bit better than that. This is something I say all the time. It's not the most hard-hitting analytics. It's not something that you dig up here to reveal that I'm going to say, and you're all going to go, what a great piece of information that is. But it's core in breaking down a basketball game. It's a shot-making and shot-missing sport. And you can create a great shot and miss it, and you can force a bad one and make it. And it all comes out in the percentages, and Auburn right now is not shooting it well enough. That has to change tomorrow. They cannot get by Florida by just being tough. You have to score. And Florida went into the jungle, went into, I guess, Neville Arena. I want to call it Auburn Arena. It's Neville Arena. They dusted Auburn in the regular season. Now, that doesn't mean everything for tomorrow's game, but it does. It's a data point. And I like Florida minus the 2.5 in this game. I do. Would not surprise me at all if Auburn won. I think Florida's a better team, so I'll take Florida and I'll lay the points. Then Houston and Duke. Two contrasting styles, two contrasting programs. I love it. Duke in this tournament beat Baylor by 23, scored 100 on Arizona, and beat Alabama by 20. And when I say they beat Arizona by scoring 100 and they beat Alabama by 20, those are two completely different things. They scored 100 on Arizona. They held Bama to 65. That is 0.9 points per possession. I know that doesn't mean a lot to a lot of you that are listening. 0.9 points per possession, what does that mean? Well, I'll tell you what it means. Alabama has been held under 0.9 points per possession twice in 2 years. 2 years. Twice it's happened. And Duke did that defensively in that game. So you look at Duke, I like Tyrese Proctor as an X factor. Everybody's going to talk about Cooper Flagg. Con Knipple is great. They've got size. I like Tyrese Proctor. He, over the course of a 3-game stretch, Louisville, Mount St. Mary's, and Baylor, made 23s. That is absurd. And he's a 41% three-point shooter. Houston is really good at collapsing their defense and forcing threes. And I think Proctor can be an X factor in doing that. Now, here's what I like about Houston. They are freaking old. They are old. They are grizzled. They are tough. They are physical. They're put together. And Duke's got some kids out there. There's some really talented kids, but Houston is going to push you around. Now, here's the difference because that's been the case now for 5 years, Houston's pushed teams around. What's the difference in this team? The difference in this team is that the last 7 years, Houston has not been in the top 110 in three-point shooting percentage. They have not been in the top 110 the last 7 years. They are second in the country this year. Kelvin Sampson finally took his defensive principles and a team that can handle that and can make buckets on the other end. This is his best shooting team. And that's why I like Houston plus the points here. I think this game comes down to the end. I think Duke wins it at the end, but I think Houston can cover the 5.5 because I think that they are more capable of keeping up with Duke point for point than they have been in the past. This Kelvin Sampson team of 2 years ago, of 4 years ago, would have had to try to hold Duke to 71 to win. This team doesn't have to do that. They could beat Duke 85-83. I don't think that's Kelvin Sampson's preference, but I do think it's a possibility, and it hasn't been a possibility previous to this. So I right now favor Florida laying the 2.5. I favor Houston catching the 5.5. I like Duke and Florida to win. If Auburn and Houston won, I wouldn't be surprised at all, and I would be just as excited to watch Auburn and Houston as I would be Florida and Duke. I think it's going to be a phenomenal Final Four. I think it's going to be very well attended, and I think that you're going to see some really, really high-level basketball, which I'm super excited about. Beck, I'll toss it to you here now that I've opined on this whole thing. Are you going to tell me I'm an idiot, or do you think I'm right on the money?
Well, I don't enjoy telling you you're right on the money, Hunt, but I do agree with you. I really do like Auburn's chances, but it's going to be tough, man. Like Florida is just, I think I've said this a lot, that they're the deepest team in the tournament in terms of just 1 to 7 or 8. They have so many guys and they don't run out of guys. And Auburn is pretty deep as well, but if you can slow down Janai Broome and Baker Mazzara, like you can work with that. So I think Florida is going to win that game, and then with Duke and Houston, it's going to be can their style of play actually work against Duke? I don't think it can. I think Duke just has a better team. I think they have better. Cooper Flagg is obviously incredibly good, and it's going to overpower, I think, Houston. So I think it's Florida and Duke, and I think Florida wins it.
Here is I'll put myself out there. This is probably a Monday discussion as opposed to a Friday discussion because we'll see who plays in that game Monday night. But I hated Duke hiring the guy who sat next to Krzyzewski and North Carolina hiring the guy who sat next to Roy Williams. I hated it. You are the blue blood of the blue blood. It's Kansas, it's Kentucky, it's Duke, it's Carolina. I don't think Indiana is in that discussion right now. I don't think UCLA is in that discussion right now. I think those are great jobs. I think you can win championships there, but I don't put them in those 4 programs category right now. Right now, I think it's those 4. And to me, for them to not flex their muscles and go get somebody, I hated it. Well, Hubert Davis got Carolina to the final game in his first or second year. I don't remember if it was his first or his second. It doesn't matter. It was in one of the first 2 years he got him to the final game, and they've fallen off. Duke doesn't appear to have fallen off at all post-Krzyzewski. Shire appears to have that team and that program in great shape. And so that's where I'm wrong. I think that Hubert Davis's last year coaching North Carolina is going to be next year. I think he'll be fired after next year. I think John Shire feels like he's in position to keep the train rolling. Now, you don't always get Cooper Flagg. That's a big deal. But there's usually 1 or 2 that they can go get that can keep that thing afloat, and we'll see how well he can use the transfer portal. We talked yesterday about the fact they've got a starter on their team who played at Tulane. So this is a cool thing to me for John Shire to kind of cement himself atop Duke's program. I think he talked yesterday about how, a lot of times when a legend moves on or a coach moves on, they're not invested in the success of the program post them, kind of want to prop themselves up as opposed to just, having it continue on. And he seems to believe that Mike Krzyzewski really wants him to do very well, and I don't have any reason to not believe that. But I think that John Shire, this could mean a lot to him if he can win 2 more basketball games. That goes without saying winning a championship, but I think it means even more just kind of stepping out of Mike Krzyzewski's shadows. So, hand up, I'm telling you, I thought it was a terrible hire or a lazy hire to me, but it could pay off big time in 3 days from right now. So we'll certainly see. LSU not in the Final Four this year. I don't know that they'll be there next year, But they're assembling a basketball team with some cash, and they did so. They moved in that direction last night. We'll talk about the addition to them and what it means for the LSU basketball team next year. We'll do that coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
We're here at Red Stick Sports for the 44th annual Sidewalk Sale. Incredible, incredible deals. Whether you've got a youth athlete in your house, whether there's an LSU fan in your house, maybe you are the LSU fan, you want to come by. The deals are unbelievable. 25% off all LSU apparel. Look, all Adidas and Under Armour workout apparel is 50% off. Shoes, some 20% off, all the way up to 75% off. Football cleats. I know it's springtime, but football will show up in the fall. Half off the football cleats that are here. If there's a youth football player in your household, get on by and see us and get you some half off football cleats. The deals are unbelievable, and they're going through tomorrow. It's a 3-day sale, started yesterday. If you can get here before 5 o'clock today, awesome. You can make that count. Tomorrow, open from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's Red Stick Sports right here on Essen. Come on by and see us for the 44th annual Sidewalk Sale.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
All right, wrapping up hour number 1 here. Our Friday show is brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. LSU basketball continues to reshape and retool its roster, and last night they made an addition from Portland. I told you after the first 3 additions out of the transfer portal, when they went and grabbed a big from Mississippi State, and then went and grabbed a point guard from UNLV, and went and grabbed a wing from Northeastern, and said, okay, this all makes sense. You need a big physical presence in the post to deal with SEC bigs. You've got to have a lead guard who can go out there and run the show. And then you need wings to defend and slash, and that's all important, and LSU is going to get some of that. But I told you, after those 3 additions, I said the next guy they get needs to be able to fill it up from 3. Fill it up from 3. Because in this day and age, it's possible to be a really good team without elite shooters. But you better rebound like crazy and defend like crazy like Michigan State does. And Michigan State got to the free throw line more than anybody in the country this year. Everybody else making threes. I just went through the Final Four. Florida's shooting threes at almost 40% in the tournament. Duke's got 3 of the best shooters in the country on their team. Houston's second in the nation in three-point percentage. And Auburn can shoot. I'm not telling you that this is the Final Four roster LSU's putting together. I'm just telling you these are some of the things you have to have. And LSU doesn't have that on this roster currently. And then they went and got Max McKinnon. Max McKinnon has been at Portland for a couple of years. And Max McKinnon is a 6'6" wing from Australia. Started his college career at Elon. And this past season at Portland, Max McKinnon shot 41% from 3. Now, he did a lot more than that for Portland. He was their main scorer. It's a guy who did a lot of damage, driving, slashing, finishing at the rim at 6'6". But when given the opportunity to knock down shots from three-point range, he did so at a 41% clip. He had a game against San Diego where he was 7 of 9 from 3. He scored 43 points in that game. And he knocked down multiple threes in a lot of the games they played this year. He only shot 91 of them, which is not a huge number. I think he'll probably shoot more of them at LSU, and I also believe that he'll be asked to do less of the driving, slashing, and heavy lifting from an offensive perspective because I think LSU's got some of that. I think that you're going to see 2 of the additions that LSU made this year do a lot more driving. You're going to see, I think, McKinnon more often just be a floor spacer and a shooter that certainly has the ability to drive and at 6'6" finish at the rim. But he's going to be a sharpshooter. And sharpshooters do 2 things. One, they make threes. Surprise, surprise. That's the first thing they do. You make threes. But the second thing, which is every bit as important, is that just your presence out there changes the way that teams play defense. And while LSU had a lot of offensive flaws this year on the floor, when Cam Carter had the ball, you didn't have to go guard anybody else outside the three-point line. Like, Sears had some games where he made some shots, but not consistently. Givens was not a threat at all to shoot threes. Your bigs could not make threes. Collins and Miller were not threats at all in that way. You didn't, I mean, certainly Jai Bailey not a threat to knock down 5 threes on you. So it makes defense easy. You just pack it in, stop the drive. It's pretty simple stuff. McKinnon, while he's not just purely a shooter, is a shooter. And that's going to change the way that teams play defense. And that was a critical add for Matt McMahon. Now they need to get another one. Whether it's McKinnon's a wing, so he's a 2 or a 3. If you can ideally get a 4 that's got the touch to really make threes, not a guy that is going to make 4 a game, but that is absolutely capable of going 2 for 3 in a game from 3, that maybe comes off the bench, like that is another piece to this pie that you've got to have. I would love a back-to-the-basket scorer. I don't think they have that. I would love LSU to go find that. Maybe Robert Miller becomes that. Maybe Jalen Reed develops that part of his game. Right now I think he's more of an attack guy as opposed to a back-to-the-basket guy. But McKinnon is an ad that absolutely positively had to come, and it did. So you're talking about a skilled, old shooting wing that you can plant out there in the corner or on the wing that teams have to respect. And then you've brought in a point guard in De'Don Thomas that is very capable of finding shooters like that. I think that's you're starting to see a reasonable roster composition. Now, for sure, I can be skeptical, and you are in every right to be skeptical of these smaller school players that LSU's bringing in, because you've seen that not translate more often than not in the McMahon era. But it has translated for the schools that have been really good. Tennessee's gotten mid-majors that have been great. Auburn's gotten mid-majors that have been great. Florida's gotten mid-majors that have been great. Talking about Duke right now has got a player from Tulane. You got to hope that these are the guys that you're getting. But certainly McKinnon brings a skill set, in theory, that should be really advantageous to LSU. So I'm excited about that ad. That's going to do it for our first hour here on a Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We're at Red Stick Sports. We'll come back with Koki Riley from Norman, Oklahoma, talking baseball on
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis, a proud sponsor here of the Hunt Palmer Show, and they're also proud of their safety. Safety is a huge, huge deal at Genesis, and certainly they can tell you all about it over at Genesis of Baton Rouge. When you pick out a Genesis, whether it's an entry-level or the highest-end model, you're talking about every car on the line that won the IIHA Top Safety Award. It's also, some of them are Top Safety Picks Plus. The brand ambassadors over at Genesis of Baton Rouge will tell you which ones those are. When you get behind the wheel, you'll see the comfort and the style. You'll see all the bells and whistles that make Genesis a luxury brand of vehicles. What you won't be able to see when you get behind the wheel is the safety, but they can tell you about it. So if that's the most important thing to you as you're in the market for a vehicle, go by and see Genesis of Baton Rouge. They're on Airline at Pico across from Women's Hospital. You can find every car that's on the lot online at genesisofbatonrouge.com.